and welcome back to my channel. So last week I made a video about healthy relationships, and since then I just kept thinking of more and more things I wanted to say, and I feel like that was a very surface level video. This one I wanted to dive a lot deeper, and I have a lot of notes here, so I'm going to be looking at my notebook a lot because I have a lot of things I want to say. I don't want to forget anything. So this one dives a lot deeper, and it talks specifically about unhealthy relationships and ways to transform your unhealthy relationship into a healthy one. And I just want to preface this, like I did in my last video, saying that not all people are capable of a healthy, happy relationship. I feel like they could be, but they might not be willing to be. They might not be willing to go to therapy to get the help that they need if they had maybe a traumatic upbringing, maybe they weren't held enough as a baby. Like, there's many reasons why someone would not be capable of a healthy relationship, and if they're not willing to do the inner work to fix themselves, go to therapy, whatever they need, then that person is not willing to be in a healthy relationship and they're just not capable of it. So that's really hard for the other person who just keeps hoping that they're going to change. I also want to say that relationships are not healthy all the time. My relationship is definitely not perfect. We're both human. Sometimes we know what we should do and we don't. I feel like all people sometimes know the smart thing to do, but the emotions get the best of them and they don't do the smart thing. So relationships are not always perfect. In my last video, I said that relationships should be good about 90 to 95% of the time, with 5, maybe 10% of the time being fights, arguments, being annoyed with each other. A quick summary from my last video. Men need to feel respected and appreciated to feel good in the relationship. Women need to feel safe physically, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, and definitely valued as well. And I would also say that both partners need to feel loved, valued, and desired, but especially women. And I'm going to focus mostly on marriage, or I'm going to keep saying marriage. A lot of this also applies to just relationships in general, but you'll see that some things are definitely more marriage focused. A relationship can really easily be thrown off, and then it kind of just gets worse and worse and spirals, and then it's a cycle, and neither partner really wants to step up and break the cycle because, you know, you're both mad at each other. So it's really hard for one person to want to fix it when there's issues going on between the both of you. So then it just is a vicious, endless cycle of both partners not treating each other how they should be. But as a Christian, I believe that the man is the head of the relationship, and I believe that it's his responsibility to kind of step up, break that cycle, be the bigger person, make the gesture to get things back on track, like buying flowers, apologizing, basically like being the bigger person by like being the man of the relationship. As a Christian, I believe that's what the man should be doing. My whole life I've heard happy wife, happy life. I feel like that's one of the most common sayings. I feel like everyone always gives that as marriage advice when a couple gets married. And now that I'm married, I see it as so true. And they've even done so many studies on how when the woman, when the wife, the mother is happy, the rest of the household is happy. When she's not, the house is sick more often, the house has more like mental health issues. There are so many studies showing how there's so much truth in happy wife, happy life. When a woman is being poured into and she's feeling good, she's feeling safe in all those ways and happy, then she just glows and radiates, and husbands know that she will make your life a million times better. Husbands just like being in her presence. They feel good basking in her happy energy. So everybody wins when the wife is happy, and that's just how it works. Okay, I'm gonna dive into what to do after you've had a fight, after you've had an argument, when you're kind of in a rough spot. So as hard as it is, marriage is hard, and as hard as it is, you have to have those tough conversations. You might just want to run away and bottle it up, but bottling it up and pushing it down is the worst thing you can do, because when you keep bottling up, there's going to be so much pressure eventually that it's going to explode. You're going to explode, your partner's going to explode, really hurtful things are going to be said. It's going to be a huge blow up. But if you confront the issue right away, if you say like, babe, like when you said that earlier, you really hurt my feelings. Can we talk about it over a nice home cooked dinner? And then you work through it and you talk it out, then you can resolve that problem. And if it's a bigger fight, maybe you want to plan it out ahead of time, like, babe, later tonight, can we talk? And maybe write a list of everything that you need to say so that you can get all your points across and go point by point, taking turns going back and forth talking about it. letting each person express their feelings and how they felt. I know it's not easy, but marriage is full of hard conversations. And whether it takes one night of doing this or several nights, several weeks, you have to work through each issue or else it's going to be brought up again. And after you have an issue and you work through it, you never bring it up again. You do not wait till you have another fight to bring it up. You never bring it up again. And that's why it's important to work through it so that you don't bring it up again, because it's been resolved, it's over, both people are forgiven, and you both feel peace about it. And something my husband and I do when we need to have these hard conversations, especially if things are a little more heated, is we use a talking stick. So like whatever it is, maybe it's a pen, and the person with the talking stick is the one talking. The other person is listening. And you're not listening just so you can respond. You're listening to understand. You're trying to put yourself in their shoes. You're trying to put yourself in their brain and think how they're thinking, especially if you're a woman, because sometimes men are not good at articulating themselves and they say things that sound really bad, but it turns out they did not mean it like that. It turns out that they had good intentions, but sometimes men just like don't know how to express their feelings, so they don't know the correct English to use, and so it comes across as bad. So that's when you ask them like to clarify, like, when you said this, is that what you meant? And then a lot of times they'll be like, no, that's not what I meant. So it's good that you clarify before reacting. And the talking stick is very helpful so that each person can be heard and it doesn't escalate into a screaming match. So we'll come back to arguments and fights. That was just one example of kind of just a fight, not like years of toxicity. So we'll come back to that, but I wanted to say that I was in the National Guard and I talked to people from all over the world for literally thousands of hours. And something that I thought was very fascinating is learning that in some other countries, they have to win over their partner every day. And I remember them saying that in the US, they see how we just take our partner for granted. It's like we just assume that they're like our husband or wife, they're like our property and they're always going to be there. And we just take them for granted. We don't try to win them over every day. So I know that it's easy to just settle in your routine and sometimes be a roommate with your partner, but you have to try to remember that they are another human being. They have thoughts, feelings, emotions, and they deserve respect. They deserve to be valued and to try to win them over every day, to do a nice gesture for them, to say nice things, to do things to make them feel loved every day, to win them over. They're not just a pet. Try to actually go in their shoes, go in their brain, and think how they're thinking to try to understand them better. Moving on, very important lesson for anyone who's newly married or hasn't been married yet. Love is a decision. It's not always a feeling. You're not always going to feel in love with your partner, and sometimes you might feel like you hate them. Sadly, sometimes you will, because there's a fine line between love and hate. So that's why being together, staying with your partner, is a decision you make every single day. It is not a feeling. So anyone who's not married needs to know that you're not always going to feel attracted to them. You're not always going to feel like you love them, but you just have to power through and know that you chose them for a reason. And if you're in a place with your partner where you're struggling, maybe it's been a rough patch, I really recommend that either in your phone notes app or in a journal somewhere, you write down all of the reasons you love them, all the reasons you are with them, all the reasons you chose them, all the nice things they've done for you, what you love about them, and you read through that at moments when you're feeling like you hate them. Try to remind yourself that there is good in them and that you love them for a reason. And yes, you're going through a rough patch and you might feel like you hate them, but you're with them for a reason and you love them. And that will kind of help calm you down and de-escalate when you're feeling these bad feelings towards them. And it's really important that when you start feeling bad towards your partner, that you de-escalate yourself before it builds and turns into resentment. So that's why I say have these hard conversations, read through the reasons you love them, and de-escalate before it bottles up and becomes worse and worse and turns into resentment. Like I said, either during or after these rough patches, it's really important that you talk through these things with your partner and you go through each person talking about how they feel, what's upsetting them, and they go through everything so that you can work through these and not bring them up ever again. When it's done, it's done. That's why it's so important that you work through it so that you forgive them and it's like you have a clean slate. It's not adding to the list, and then you fight and you blow up and you list out everything that they've done. And I know it may be hard for you to forgive them and you to work through maybe the things they said, how they treated you. So you yourself need to work through it. So not just with your partner talking about it, but you yourself need to journal, need to heal, do whatever you need to do for yourself to be able to truly forgive them so that it's done and you have that clean slate. And another reason that you want to take the time and energy to process these things when they happen is because your brain does not know the difference between real and make-believe or past, present, or future. So if you are thinking of something your partner did in the past, your brain, your body is going to feel as if it's actually happening in the moment. You'll be releasing adrenaline, releasing cortisol. Your body will feel as if it's happening right now in this moment, and you'll be reliving that trauma, and then you'll just get mad at them all over again. That's why another reason why you need to resolve something, so that you're not reliving it over and over and putting yourself through that stress. And when that adrenaline and cortisol is surging through your body, your brain cannot think straight, and it's actually making decisions as if you're intoxicated. Okay, so I've talked about a couple of things as far as relationship issues, working through fights. What else did I say? Love is not always a feeling, it's a decision, and having those hard conversations. But I also want to say that for a healthy relationship, things that you want to do is regular date nights. Like a lot of people say the rule is weekly, and it doesn't have to be going out. It could be at home, but going out would definitely be preferable because then you're dressing up for each other. Like that there's something about dressing up for each other, dressing up to go out, that feels really good and is really good for the relationship. So dressing up, going out on a date once a week if you can, and learning each other's love language is very important. Guys and girls or men and women are pretty different with that. Usually women like gifts, compliments, and men like acts of service and quality time. So it's important that you know each other's love language so that you can do whatever it is that they like, because your partner deserves to feel sought after and desired. So you want to be doing these nice things for them on a regular basis. Okay, another point for healthy relationship, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but human beings have a need for sex, for intimacy. So you want to be having sex with your partner on a regular basis, whatever that may be. Some people may want to multiple times a week, some just once a week, whatever it is. But humans are made with this desire to need that, and for humans to be at their healthiest, they need to have that on a regular basis. So that is something that you want to incorporate into your relationship. But also, I feel like something that men don't always realize is foreplay starts at the beginning of the day, not at the bedroom. So a woman is not going to be attracted to you if it's at the end of the night, if it's been a rough day all day. It starts at the beginning of the day. So men, remember that. I also wanted to add here that to have a relationship that's healthy, you also need to be making sure that you're pouring into yourself and taking care of yourself, because if your cup is not full, you'll not be able to pour into somebody else. So make sure you're taking time to groom yourself, to love yourself, to do the hobbies that make you feel good, and to just pour into yourself so that you have the energy to pour into your partner. I also want to add that if you want to be in a healthy relationship and you want your man to feel good around you, you cannot criticize him. You cannot tear him down. It might be annoying sometimes if he's driving past all the good parking spots and you feel like he's going to the least convenient spot, but tearing him down and criticizing him is really going to hurt your relationship. At all costs, try not to criticize your man. If he goes to the grocery store and he gets something slightly different than what you wanted, you should still be grateful that he went and not criticize him and make him feel like less of a man because of his mistake. As women, I feel like it's easy to accidentally criticize our man a lot, but it's very important that you catch yourself and try to not do that. Okay, now I'm going to talk about relationships that are struggling, that may be toxic, unhealthy. So this is kind of more heavy stuff, and I almost hesitate to talk about this next point, but I feel like it's important. I'm going to anyway. You need to be very honest and clear with yourself what your boundaries are and what the deal breakers are, and your partner needs to know what the deal breakers are as well. So whatever that may be for you, where the relationship is over, whether it's cheating, whatever it may be, both you and your partner need to know what the deal breakers are for each other, where the relationship is over. And as a Christian, I don't think the divorce is ideal, and it's the worst. I feel like it's the worst case scenario, but for me, it'll never be completely off the table. If I don't believe that as a precious child of God that he wants you to suffer like that. So if you're in a relationship with cheating or abuse or just complete disrespect, there is not a Christ-filled marriage, then I don't believe that's a marriage at all, and that's not something God wants you to be in. Everyone has their own opinions about divorce, but that's what I believe personally. It'll never be completely off the table. Something like cheating would tell me it's over, it's done. So make sure that you and your partner both have those clear boundaries, because a lot of people in toxic relationships, they're addicted to the toxicity. You know, it's the cycle of abuse where when you don't know exactly how your partner's going to show up, are they going to be so loving and wonderful, or you can be walking on eggshells and maybe they'll explode. Our body gets addicted to that not knowing, and it craves for us to basically get their love. Like when someone's giving you inconsistent love, you crave to get their love. You want it even more than if someone was giving you constant love. And so that's really hard because you get addicted to it. And then so many people find themselves in a position where they say, I never thought I would I never thought I would accept this. I never thought I would be with an abuser for years and years, but I just feel like I can't walk away. So that's why it's really important to have these boundaries, that you know when the relationship is over. You know when the marriage is over and you have to get a divorce. And both partners need to know that so that the line is not blurry. You're both on the same page. I really believe that God wants you to be happy. So if your partner is doing unspeakable things and you're not happy, I don't believe that's a marriage, and I do think that's grounds for divorce. But if your relationship is toxic and both partners want to work on it, want to fix it, then that's completely different. That's when you buckle up and begin the very hard journey of inner work and working on yourself. And it may take weeks, months, years, therapy, whatever it may take. If both partners are willing to do it, I believe that a relationship can be fixed, because you got together in the first place. There's a reason you're together. You love each other, and you may have a lot of work to do individually, but you guys can both get to a place where you can come back together and rekindle your flame and be better than you even were in the beginning. Everyone has the power of change. Like I know there's sayings like a zebra can't change its stripes. That is wrong. Everyone can change. I like to do a lot of research on the brain and like neuroplasticity and all of that, and everyone is capable of change. You can completely rewire your brain. So it's really annoying when people say things like a zebra can't change their stripes. Everyone can change if they want to change, if they're willing, is the keyword. But you have to love yourself enough to know that if a relationship is not working, if you are being treated unacceptable, if the person is not willing to change, then you deserve better than that. And as a precious child of God, I believe that there's someone out there that will give you better. There are 8 billion people in the world. There is someone that will give you what you need. And sometimes people don't want to admit that the relationship is over, but say that there was cheating. Like I said, a woman needs to feel safe physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually. And if there's cheating, she will probably never be able to feel safe in the marriage again or in the relationship. And when you can't feel safe, like they say, there's no trust, you don't have anything. If she does not feel safe, then it is just going to be horrible for her, for the other partner. It's going to be extremely taxing and eat the person alive from the inside out. I really don't think God wants us to live in torment. So if you say your partner cheated on you and you don't feel safe with them anymore because they cheated, they crossed that boundary, then I believe you're living in torment, being eaten alive, not being able to trust them. So I would say the marriage is over, but I know some people do work through cheating. And that's why it's important that you have clear boundaries of when the relationship will be over and you actually stick to them. You have to love yourself enough to do that, to know that you deserve so much, and as a precious child of God, you do not deserve to live in torment. But if both partners are willing to change, then that is different. It's different than if both partners are willing to change, or if you know, you made vows. So you made the vow staying with them through thick and thin, sickness and health. So that's completely different. There will likely be times in your relationship together, in your marriage, where you will both have times you struggle, and it will be very hard for your marriage. But I think that you need to power through. I believe that people need to power through that, as long as the person is willing to change, that is. For example, mental illness. That is a very hard one. It can be very hard in the relationship. I remember when I was pregnant, there was maybe a couple of months, so not super long, but you know, I'm sure it felt long to my husband. It felt very long to me, where I was just a disaster. I just laid on the couch and cried I did not take care of myself. I think I wore the big 2XL shirt every day and just laid on the couch and ate and cried and stayed up till 3 a.m., slept till noon, did no cleaning around the house, did no cooking, did nothing. I was like a shell of myself. I was severely depressed and just sick and miserable. And see, that is the time where the other person in the relationship needs to step up and help you get through this time. That is not when the relationship's going to be 50-50. That's when sometimes it's going to be like 95-5. Everyone has different beliefs about this, but that's what I believe. So the person needs to step up and help in those roles that you are not capable of doing in the moment. And another mental illness is addiction, which is probably the hardest thing a relationship can go through. When I was in nursing school, I feel like they harped into us during my mental health course that I remember my professor saying, addiction is a mental illness. It is a mental illness. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's a person being selfish, they're choosing it, but it is a mental illness. Whether it's sports betting, drinking, smoking, gambling, excessive screen time, shopping, whatever else it may be, addiction takes a giant toll on the relationship. And there's multiple questionnaires for, like, I think I'm trying to think of one we learned in nursing school, like alcoholic questionnaire. But basically, I would say that something is an addiction and it's a problem when it's causing issues in your personal life, when it's causing issues in your family. So if people around you are upset by the amount you're doing whatever you're doing, or maybe you're not able to pay your bills, it's affecting your personal life, and that's when it's an addiction, and that's when things need to change. So if someone around you is upset with what you're doing, let's say your husband or wife is upset with whatever you're doing, that's an addiction that needs to change. And this is easier said than done, but this is a time where, like I said, sickness and health through marriage, where both partners should come together, and it should be you guys against the problem, not you guys against each other. It's not fair for the other partner to be so mad and insist that person quits cold turkey. And it might not even be safe. If it's like, say, drugs or alcohol, it would not even be safe for them to quit cold turkey. But what I'm saying is that's not a clear solution, and that'll probably make the person with the addiction spiral more, and it will get worse. So you two need to come together, you guys against the problem, figure out what needs to be done. And the partner that doesn't have the addiction, the other partner needs to know that things are not going to change overnight, and needs to help come up with a realistic, attainable goal, something that's reachable. Like I said, cold turkey, that's not realistic. You both need to come together and come up with a plan. And likely, if your partner is dealing with addiction, you probably do need a professional to step in. They may need to go to rehab, or at least see a therapist, something, because it's a mental illness and it could root from something very deep. Like I said, not being held enough for the baby. That's something very deep inside them, that there's a reason that they're feeling this with their addiction. And like, say it's alcohol or drug, whatever it is, your body becomes addicted and it needs it, whether it needs that dopamine rush, or like with alcohol, your body becomes extremely physically dependent on it, where if you stop suddenly, you will actually die. That's why it's not easy to just quit, and it takes a lot of patience from both partners. For example, a realistic goal, say their addiction is cigarettes, they're smoking 20 a day, then a goal you can come up with together is slowly tapering down, 19 a day, 18 a day, 17, 16, then maybe when they're down to 5, they do 5 a day for a week, and then 3 a day for a week, and then 2 a day for a week, and then 1 a day for a week. I don't know, I'm not a professional in this, but something that you can come up together, and the other person can help keep you accountable, and you can actually talk about it. Like, one thing that I feel like happens in a lot of relationships with addiction is that the person struggling feels like they can't talk about it, but the other person has to try to be understanding and talk about it with them. Be like, how are you feeling right now? You look like you're struggling. Like, what can I do for you? How can I distract you? Maybe you can watch a movie together. Maybe you can take a walk, make a meal together. I don't know. Or eat some candy, something to help distract them from that. It helps a lot when the partner can actually talk to you about it and be honest, rather than feeling like they're going through it alone. when you have a problem like this, or just any problems in a relationship, it really needs to be you two against the problem. But like I said, it is a mental illness, and so likely you will need a professional's help, a therapist, you will need some outside resources, but they'll need to replace their addiction with a healthy habit. Okay, so that's probably one of the hardest things a relationship can go through. So next, I want to talk about how you talk to each other. So like I said in part 1 of these videos about having a healthy relationship, what you say someone is, they will prove you right either way. So if you are always tearing them down, calling them lazy, telling them they don't do anything, they're going to prove you right. But if you're building them up, telling them how patient they are, telling them how you love how they do so much, how you ask them to do something and they do it right away, they're most likely going to prove you right too. So it's very important how you talk to them. And also it's almost like Pavlov's theory, where if you say your husband does something for you, he hangs up a picture right after you ask him to, if you praise him and you're so appreciative and happy, then that's going to condition him to keep doing that, because he feels good and he feels good by your response and he wants more of that. But if you're calling your partner names, tearing them down, and just telling them terrible things that they are about themselves, then they're going to become that even more, and the cycle continues. So it may not be easy, like I said in my last video. Say if they're being super lazy, it's not going to be easy to tell them they do so much and you're so appreciative of all they do. But take those little slivers and run with them. So when they do something small, say, praise them so much, like Pavlov's classical conditioning, praise them, be so thankful, and instill in them how much you appreciate them, and then they'll keep doing it more and more. And so it's almost like a psychology trick. When you want someone to do something, is like praise them for the little things they do, and also basically, like I said, tell them what you want them to be. If you want them to be patient, tell them how patient they are. I also want to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. If you're really heated in the moment, then you probably need to take some time to step away and to cool down before you continue the conversation. You don't want to say things that you'll regret. You don't want to say things that you don't fully mean just to hurt them, because they'll remember those things. You don't want to do that. You want to cool down first. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. You and your partner are both human beings and deserve to be built up and poured into, not torn down. Your partner should be building you up and helping you to become the best version of yourself, not tearing you down. It's crazy how in relationships, the person who's supposed to be the one who loves you the most and pours into you the most can easily become the person who treats you like a punching bag, where you treat them like a punching bag, where we tear them down rather than build them up. We pour out all of our frustrations on them. That is not fair. I believe that our partner is our biggest asset. They can make our life so much better. So many studies have been done on how men who are married make so much more money. Men who are married live longer. Men who are married are respected more. Being married really benefits both partners, specifically men. I don't really know the studies on women, but it specifically benefits men. So your partner is your biggest asset, and you want to pour into them and make sure that they're feeling their best. I mean, your partner is going to be there during your hardest times in life, your happiest times in life, your just basically all of the big parts of your life. Your partner is going to be there for. You want them to be your best friend and your sidekick, not just your roommate that you fight with all the time. Like I was saying, happy wife, happy life. When a woman is poured into and is feeling safe all those ways, financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally and physically, then she will radiate. She will bring so much joy to your life. Your life will be a million times better just by being around her. So it's worth investing into your asset, your partner, and doing all those nice things for them. Giving them flowers. Flowers go a long way. Small gestures go a long way. Making your husband a nice lunch or massaging his shoulders, something like that goes a long way. Surprising your wife with a gift, whatever their love language may be, or like planning a date if it's acts of service, whatever their love language may be, those little things go a long way, and that will really help to rekindle the flame. And like I said, for men, when you do something for your woman, like bring her flowers, you win too, because you get to radiate in her happy joy. Unless you had a huge fight and you're bringing her the flowers and apology, then you may not be radiating much joy. She might still be mad at you if you didn't talk it through and it's just getting the flowers. Something about me is I actually don't like flowers after a fight. It actually makes me mad, and because I feel like flowers are such a beautiful, fun gift that I love so much, and so flowers would be completely ruined for me if I only got them after fights, or even if it was just randomly and after fights, they would still be ruined for me. I don't know what it is, but I don't want flowers after fights. I want to talk it through and make up to each other. A smart man knows how much he benefits from pouring into his wife. He knows how his life will be so much better, and I really, like I said, I do believe that it starts with the man. So as hard as it is when you're in this cycle, when your relationship is not well, I do think it's up to the man to take action, to do a gesture. If you guys haven't seen Fireproof, you should really watch Fireproof. Wait, is it the man or is it the woman? It's definitely the man. Yeah, it's the man. I don't know, I haven't seen it in so many years, but yeah, it's the man. And doing those gestures, stepping up, I really feel like that is the man's role. I feel like the man sets the temperature of the relationship, and he's the one that can pull it out of that rut and be the one that initiates fixing things. I also want to say that, like I said, men thrive off of appreciation and respect, but he has to be doing things that warrant that, because if someone is not acting in a way that's respectable, then they're not going to be respected and appreciated. So I feel like sometimes men will be so angry, feeling like they're not being respected in the relationship, but why would they be respected when they're not being respectable at all? They're not doing these things, they're not pouring to their wife, they're not being the loving, amazing husband, then they're not going to be respected. And so that's why I say it's a vicious cycle, and it starts with the man to step up and to break that cycle. Okay, moving on. So just a couple tips for healthy relationships. I think that it's very important to, every once in a while, do a check-in with your partner, maybe every few months, or ideally more than that. I feel like I'm kind of bad about forgetting to do this, but doing check-ins where you ask how you're feeling in a relationship, is there anything that I can do better, and you both take turns asking the other person what you can do better and talking it through, and you don't get mad at each other. This is just a simple conversation where the other person gets to express what they're thankful you're doing and what you could be doing better to make the relationship healthier. And regular date nights, like I said, very important for a relationship.
Feel like how it is in the beginning.
What?
I said, and feel like how it is in the beginning.
What do you mean?
If you do that.
If you do what?
Talk about it.
Oh, like you'll feel how it was in the beginning of the relationship? Yeah. So my husband said that you'll feel like you do in the beginning of the relationship when you do those check-ins. Oh, so you mean like you're saying like the relationship kind of like resets? Okay, yeah, that's a good point. The relationship kind of resets because you're starting fresh with a clean slate. That's why I said it's so important to talk through fights, so that you're starting with a clean slate every time. So my husband was just listening in, and he was saying how when you do these check-ins with each other, then that gives you a chance to do all the things that maybe you forgot about doing. So if your spouse says, I feel like you haven't been like texting me much like we used to in the beginning of our relationship, that gives the other person the opportunity to start fresh and start doing those things again. You can't read each other's mind. I feel like women sometimes make the mistake of thinking that their husband can read their mind, but they can't read each other's mind, and men and women are wired so differently that you have to ask what you want, so you have to say what you need, and you cannot just assume that they know how you feel. And I also want to recap, if a relationship is in a toxic place, but both of you are willing to change, then it can be fixed and it can be healed. Even if it's been toxic for years and years, if both people in the relationship are willing to put in the effort and to change, it can be fixed. But if you're in a relationship where one of the partners is not willing to change and you are just in complete agony, I would personally say that the relationship is over. But I do think that that's a time where you should consider serious marriage counseling and individual therapy for both of you. But like I said, if it's a relationship, say one of the partners cheated, if you don't have trust, I don't think that the relationship will work, because the woman will not feel safe, and that is just one of the core things a woman needs to feel her best in a relationship. She needs to feel safe, and she's not going to feel safe emotionally if if that trust has been broken. Like I said, in America, I feel like we take our partners for granted and we kind of treat them like a pet that's always going to be there. But it's important that we start pouring into our relationships, pouring into our partner, because like I said, they're our greatest asset, and taking time to put effort, energy into our relationship, not just letting it go by and being roommates where we don't do anything for each other. Okay, well, I think I said everything that I wanted to say. If I think of more things, maybe I'll make a part 3, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you are in a place where your relationship needs some help, that you can work through it, or I hope that these tips helped you. Maybe you're not even in a relationship, but for future reference, I hope that these helped you. Thanks for watching.